In a world where the Earth has been destroyed and taken over by robotic insects, humans are forced to move to floating islands in the sky to live. In this academy city, many people come to learn with the hope of becoming wizards or warriors to fight against the robotic insects. Currently, 2 girls from the student council are reading information about a student. The first student wrote a self-report, but its content was very arrogant, considered herself a goddess who would save the world, and therefore felt it was unnecessary to write a report because she did not do her homework. The 2 girls could only sigh and were at a loss for words. The second student was too kind-hearted. Despite having a good heart, her strength was too weak and unsuitable for becoming a warrior. The third student was the worst in the entire school, with a record of losing more matches and never having won even once. These 3 individuals were considered the weakest in the whole school, and if the situation did not improve, the school would be forced to expel all 3 of them. The student council president asked one of the girls to be a mentor to improve the condition of these 3 students, but the girl was reluctant and decided to find someone else to take over the task. At that moment, they met the main character, Kanata, who was checking records in the archive warehouse. His friend, Leoid, arrived and found that Kanata had been there all night recalculating the records and discovered that some people were stealing. Leoid was surprised because it would take others 3 days to complete the inspection, but Kanata only needed 1 night. Leoid also informed him that the Dean of Wizards wanted to meet with Kanata. After that, Kanata left the archive warehouse and managed to catch the bus to school. Upon arriving at the bus stop, he pressed the button to get off and walked towards the school, but along the way, a girl bumped into him. The girl thought Kanata was not paying attention to the road, but she was the one running in a hurry. The girl was angry because her jam bread fell on Kanata's pants with the jam facing inward. She wanted Kanata to apologize, but Kanata still felt it was the girl's fault. As the girl was about to make an issue of it, Kanata managed to escape. Kanata then went to wash his pants and met another girl who was praising her beauty. Kanata was somewhat confused by her actions, and the girl assumed Kanata was mesmerized by her beauty. In reality, Kanata was amazed by the girl's silly actions. The girl started considering herself a goddess, so Kanata suggested that she stop daydreaming and focus on training. The girl realized Kanata was not wearing pants and thought he was a pervert, and Kanata had to run away. Kanata hid in the toilet to wait for his pants to dry. Meanwhile, the female students at the school started gossiping about a pervert being at the school. When Kanata came out, he accidentally ran into another girl who thought Kanata was the pervert everyone was talking about. The girl thought Kanata was about to do something bad and was about to scream, but Kanata had already run away. Eventually, Kanata managed to enter the school, but it seemed everyone there considered him a traitor due to something that happened in the past. Yuri, his younger sister who used to admire him, now hated him. Chloe, the mentor, asked Yuri not to be mad at Kanata anymore. Yuri left, and Chloe asked Kanata not to anger Yuri again because she had moved there to be close to him. 6 months had passed since that day. Kanata then asked Chloe why she wanted to meet him. Chloe took him to meet the dean and said that Kanata was called to help mentor a team. After checking the team's records, Kanata realized that their scores were very poor. Kanata then went to the team's room and found that the 3 girls on the team were the same girls he had met earlier that day. They immediately drew their weapons, annoyed at Kanata, thinking he was a pervert and a difficult person to like. However, before they could attack, they put their weapons away. They were confused as to why Kanata was chosen to be their mentor. Kanata asked them not to worry about it and told them he would train them to beat other teams. Kanata believed they also wanted to beat other teams and attract attention. Kanata, who is nicknamed Black Sword, would help them achieve that goal. Kanata had doubts because he had never seen Riko train. Riko arrogantly considered herself already skilled, so Kanata did not need to worry. However, since Kanata had never seen her, he considered Riko to be on par with Sora, who was almost at the bottom. Riko was forced to accept Kanata's training. Lecty didn't have many opinions, so Kanata agreed to include her in the training. Chloe met Yuri again and told her that Kanata was mentoring a team. Yuri thought Kanata usually wouldn't help others in this matter, but this time he couldn't avoid it because it was an order. Kanata took the 3 girls to the sky. Kanata didn't like using flying magic, so he used a flying board for speed. He wanted them to try to catch him because he knew their strength was still weak, so he limited his power. However, Kanata believed he could still evade the 3 of them. Kanata then ran, and Sora immediately chased him. Riko wanted to plan first before pursuing. Sora quickly followed Kanata, and Kanata admitted her speed wasn't too bad. Kanata increased his speed to evade Sora, but Sora also increased her speed and drew a large sword to attack. Kanata managed to dodge all attacks and decided to get rid of Sora by slowing down to make her lose balance and escape into the clouds. Kanata acknowledged Sora's physical strength wasn't bad, and just as Lecty was behind him, he didn't know why she didn't attack when she had the chance. However, Lecty was too kind-hearted to win a battle by cheating like that. After that, they exchanged a few blows, and Kanata realized that Lecty had certain skills, precise movements, and quick reflexes. But the problem might be her lack of confidence. Suddenly, from behind, Riko targeted Kanata and shot at him. Kanata realized it and tried to dodge but was worried about Lecty, so he swung his sword and cut the bullet. He knew Lecty and Riko had tried to work together, but the problem with Riko was she lacked a sense of teamwork. To Riko, she was a goddess, while others were just ordinary people to be used. Kanata finally understood Riko's nature. Meanwhile, these three girls returned and complained about their day. Kanata concluded that Sora was hot-tempered and didn't pay attention to her surroundings. Lecty was too shy to face the enemy even though she had the skills, and Riko was the opposite of Lecty but had the habit of isolating herself from the team. He wanted to try to unite these three separate parts. While Kanata was thinking about the training for the next day, he accidentally entered their changing room, causing all three to point their weapons at him. The next day, Kanata announced that he had prepared special training, but Riko didn't want to participate and left. Kanata let her go and asked the other two if they were ready. Kanata then took Lecty to a clothing store to buy a maid uniform. He said it was important for her training. Lecty had to wear the uniform and distribute flyers. When she stood in the middle of the school, her shy nature made her afraid to ask people to take the flyers, making the other girls think she was weird. However, some boys saw her and were curious because they had never seen a maid on the street since the invasion. They approached her, surprising Lecty and causing her to drop all the flyers. After gathering her courage, she invited them to the restaurant on the flyer. The three boys wanted to eat, so they thanked her. Lecty felt she had made progress. Sora, on the other hand, was assigned to find Riko's weakness. She did not like this task, but Kanata silenced her because Riko was passing by. Afterward, Sora asked Kanata to remove his hand from her chest, making her feel belittled. Riko then realized that Sora was following her and accused her of liking her. Riko mentioned she had some errands to run and had to go shopping, and Sora decided to tag along. Kanata met Lecty again, who had completed her task and felt braver. Kanata asked her to work at the restaurant, then left before Lecty could refuse. While working, Lecty had difficulty serving customers, but a young man who saw her efforts gave her words of encouragement, telling her to trust her trainer and learn from her friends. Lecty was inspired and began working more enthusiastically. Meanwhile, Sora discovered that Riko liked philosophy books and cute dolls. Sora didn't see this as a weakness, but Kanata considered it progress. He rewarded them both with ice cream. That night, the Vice Dean asked Kanata about his findings. Kanata saw great potential in Sora, but she lacked talent in swordsmanship. Kanata suggested that Sora use firearms to utilize her magical powers, but Sora refused because she wanted to inherit her mother's techniques. Kanata was puzzled because Sora insisted on maintaining swordsmanship, even though it hindered her progress. Lecty continued working as a waitress and met the young man who had given her advice again. She realized that Kanata was still training her this way. Lecty met Riko again and asked for help, but Riko refused. Lecty then thought about asking Kanata for help. Riko was surprised to see Lecty more confidently speaking. Elsewhere, a teacher was preparing to express his feelings to Yuri, the girl he had bumped into before. He saw Yuri following Kanata and realized that Kanata was not training his team seriously, which shocked him. Kanata went to the restaurant where Sora worked and saw that the restaurant belonged to her father. Sora was angry to see Kanata and quit her job. Her father apologized because their family was not harmonious. Kanata enjoyed the meal at the restaurant and asked why Sora was so obsessed with swordsmanship. He explained that swords and firearms were indeed powerful and that Sora's mother used to be a sword and firearm mage. However, one day while on a mission, she never returned. Ordinary people like her father began to lose the memory of their wives. But Sora remained obsessed with swords and firearms because she did not want to forget her mother. She continued to train to become more skilled. When her mother returned from the mission, Sora was overjoyed. Her mother often played games by throwing her into the air to experience the thrill and then catching her in her father's arms. At home, her mother was very awkward with all household chores. The only meal she could cook was steak, doing laundry caused water to overflow, and sweeping the house with her magic created big holes in the floor. Then, she was called to battle. Sora felt sad because her mother had just returned, but eventually she let her go. At night, her mother returned from the battle and took her flying over the city she was protecting. They flew illegally and were chased by city guards until they had to flee. The next day, her mother went to battle again. Sora trained all day, but her mother did not return. She asked her father, but her father no longer remembered who her mother was. Sora didn't believe it and asked everyone, but no one remembered her mother until she met another mage who returned her mother's sword and gun and apologized for putting her mother in danger. Sora decided to become a sword and firearm mage like her mother. Despite training hard, she didn't make much progress. Kanata then appeared and started explaining everything to her. They went to the Hill of Mages' Graves, and Kanata told Sora that she had to leave the sword to become stronger. Her mother never hoped for Sora to be like her, she only hoped Sora would be strong and safe. Her father was very worried that one day Sora would also leave and he would forget his daughter as he had forgotten his wife. Kanata trained Sora not to die in vain on the battlefield. However, Sora was determined to be better than her mother, hoping that people would remember her mother through her. Kanata was intrigued and decided to train her to be a sword and firearm mage. But the path would be very difficult, so Sora had to prepare mentally. The next day, while training with Lekti, Sora thanked Kanata for understanding her. Rico became more interested in Kanata. One day, while Kanata was at the restaurant with the young men and giving advice to Lekti, many people distanced themselves because they considered him a traitor. Yuri then came and realized that Kanata's team would face the fastest growing team. Kanata remained confident his team would win, even though Yuri only hoped Kanata wasn't just good at talking. Rico then joined and said she had just seen a goddess in the mirror, referring to herself. Initially, she did not intend to train with Kanata, but Kanata allowed her to do whatever she wanted as long as she showed up for the match. Sora and Lekti then experienced fatigue from Kanata's heavy training. Kanata invited them to have ice cream, but Sora refused and took Lekti to meet Rico. Sora immediately asked Rico to train with them, even though Rico refused because she felt no need to train. Kanata came and asked what was going on. A leader announced that their team was attacked by a chimera and had to defeat it immediately to prevent an attack on the city. Kanata heard all this and admitted that losing was unpleasant, but he did not intend to make his team lose. He would make Sora the key to victory. The next day, their teacher secretly observed Yuri training. Rico happened to pass by and thought the teacher was bothering Yuri, so she stood to give him a chance to see, but the teacher ran away. Kanata trained Sora with a famous technique that fired a large bullet that exploded in a wide area. Sora began to master it even though it drained her energy. Kanata limited this training to 3 times a day. For Lekti, Kanata focused more on building her confidence because her family's dual sword technique was already very good. Kanata then allowed Lekti to fight him with everything she had. Although she couldn't hit Kanata yet, Lekti began to feel confident. Kanata then trained both girls and turned to Rico. He knew that Rico used glasses to enhance her vision and analytical abilities. Kanata explained that the technique he taught Sora had weaknesses and needed a protector and an attacker. Rico initially felt that Kanata did not intend to teach her, but Kanata focused on the other 2 girls to catch up with Rico. Kanata explained that the team needed Rico as a strategist. The next day, Rico arrived early to train with Sora and Lekti. Kanata felt that the team was complete and they headed to the arena for the match. Their opponents felt sure of winning, but Kanata believed his team would turn the tables. However, before the match started, there was an emergency warning that a horde of monsters was approaching the island. The entire island switched to emergency mode and closed its dome. Kanata's team helped evacuate the residents. Lekti returned with a lost child and wanted to take him to safety, but it was too late. Outside, Chloe, along with Leoid and Yuri, fought against the monsters. They found a group of monsters that managed to enter the island. Sora tried to use the technique taught by Kanata and destroyed part of the city, including her father's shop. The number of monsters increased. Kanata's team managed to escort the child to safety. The team leader found the chimera leading the monsters and sent a team to defeat it, but the monster's direction did not change. Rico used her vision power and found many monsters in a hole in the dome. Kanata's team headed there, while Chloe held back her 2 teammates to defend. Kanata was known as a traitor for fleeing first, but in fact, he always protected his team. Kanata, who was worried about those people, brought the 3 girls and asked if they were ready to face the chimera. They were all concerned because they had no real combat experience. However, what they had been taught were things that would help them survive. They all chose to trust Kanata as their guide and followed his directions. Lekti then used her dual swords to advance as the vanguard, while Rico stayed at the back, shooting, and Sora looked for the best position to launch artillery attacks to take down as many enemies as possible. After that, she fired twice in succession and managed to take down quite a few enemies. She then supported Sora when she lost concentration, allowing Sora to gather great energy and eliminate almost all the enemies in the pit. However, just at that moment, a bullet was shot directly at Sora. Kanata rushed to block the bullet for her. At that moment, a bug appeared, larger than any they had seen before, starting to destroy the surroundings, making Lekti and Rico unable to fight any longer. Kanata knew that the monster seemed to be targeting him, so he told Sora not to imitate what he was about to do. Kanata then activated his true power and dashed at incredible speed, dodging every shot from the monster and successfully approaching and attacking it. However, the monster still intended to shoot more, so Kanata used the artillery technique he had taught Sora, but with his original power, which was much greater than what Sora had previously unleashed. Kanata's shot completely pushed the monster off the island and created a massive energy explosion. Kanata then exhausted his strength and collapsed. After that, the other monsters retreated, and Chloe knew that Kanata had succeeded. The teacher, worried about Yuri, rushed to find her when the eye of the monster cut by Kanata fell. Kanata then regained consciousness and believed that the three girls were ready for battle. He then bandaged his arm and headed to the arena. There, he met Yuri and told her that his team was ready and very strong. However, after the fight, his team was defeated badly, leaving Yuri confused about the strength Kanata had mentioned. Kanata felt that human plans could indeed be unpredictable by fate. At that moment, the team leader met with the chief supervisor to submit a request. He wanted his students to gain real combat experience rather than continuously training without practical benefits. Therefore, a tournament will be held soon. A few days later, Kanata's group was back at a standstill because the three girls were unwilling to cooperate despite fighting fake monsters. Meanwhile, the team leader saw that Kanata's group was not showing significant progress. The victory against the Chimera was not recognized because there were no eyewitnesses, so an announcement without evidence would be considered biased. Additionally, their team faced the risk of being disbanded for damaging public property. Kanata saw the stalemate and knew they had to move on to the next step soon. Yuri agreed with the disbandment of Kanata's team and asked Chloe to call Kanata later. The three girls were upset because no one acknowledged their success, but Kanata wasn't angry because no one saw them fight. However, now he wanted to focus on a new problem, which was the upcoming tournament. The winner of the tournament would move up 2 rank levels, receive equipment from the alchemy department, and get free meals for a year at all the restaurants on the island. Everyone then dreamed of winning. Lecty wanted to be praised by Kanata, Riko wanted attention, and Sora wanted to become the actual team captain. Suddenly, Kanata was summoned to the team leader's office. He was told that he would be fired for failing to improve his team. However, he said that he was preparing for a major victory. The team leader did not believe him and thought his plan would not work. Nevertheless, as a gambler, he ignored the comment and focused on proving himself to the three girls. Although the team leader forgave him this time, the entire school would still not recognize his team. Kanata said that if they won the tournament, the school would recognize them, wouldn't they? The team leader agreed to give them one more chance. If they lost, their team would be disbanded. The three girls heard about the possible disbandment and asked Kanata to explain. He said nothing and took them back to class. Kanata told them that if they still wanted to pursue their goals, they just needed to win the tournament. He didn't want them to take it too seriously because it would only add pressure. In this tournament, all teams were on an equal footing. Points from ranking matches would not help. Kanata told them to get ready because there would be new training and partner assignments the next day. Meanwhile, the team leader's group went to a monster research laboratory. There, they saw scientists at work. The teacher met them and knew everyone on the team, especially Yuri, because of previous events. The teacher wanted to return Yuri's handkerchief, but the team leader asked him to focus on the task. They found that the eye of the Chimera defeated by Kanata had been brought here, and they managed to reconstruct the Chimera, which was larger than any they had ever fought. The important thing was, when they cut a part of the eye, it immediately regenerated. The scientists would try to use this to find a rapid recovery formula. After that, they went home, and the teacher was happy to see Yuri again. The team leader explained that the enemies continued to evolve, and they would lack skilled personnel if the training process remained slow. On the way home, Yuri smelled something unpleasant from that place, and the team leader asked for her help with something. The next day, all the teams gathered in the gym for the match draw. The unlucky teams would have to face strong teams. Kanata's team sent Sora for the draw, and she was lucky to get a balanced team. Everyone thought this match would be easy and they wouldn't be disbanded. Kanata met Yuri again, who had just been appointed as the coach of Team. Kanata made a bet and arranged a final match against Yuri's team. If Yuri lost, she would have to join Kanata's team, although the chances of her losing were very slim. Kanata told his team that they had to win the entire tournament to avoid disbandment. In the past, when Kanata, Chloe, and Leoid were on the same team, they had participated in a ranking match. Yuri watched and doubted that a Team D like them could defeat a Team. Kanata deliberately gave Team a chance to take the lead, then launched a counterattack from behind. However, during the fight, an arrow flew toward Yuri and Kanata saved her before finishing the match. Yuri's current team discussed a recently appeared assassin, and they had to patrol frequently. Kanata heard this from atop a tree and jumped down. Yuri was angry because Kanata was eavesdropping, but her team teased her, making Yuri upset and leave. Kanata knew Yuri had intended to ask the head of the group for permission to coach a classy team like Kanata's because he knew Yuri was very independent and responsible. She wanted to reach an equal position with the three of them, so she would strive to find a fair match. After that, Kanata trained the three girls on his team, but the situation was still chaotic. Additionally, he forced them to fight. However, the change in team positions was making Gia the main attacker, while Lecty retreated to the back for support. Riko had seen this new strategy. Therefore, she took out her weapon and asked Chloe to move to the left side to face the approaching enemies while she and Lecty attacked from the right side. Sora followed orders and moved forward. Lecty felt guilty for not being as useful in the fight as Sora, but Riko was just baiting Sora to go to that side and didn't intend to belittle Lecty. At that time, Yuri's team also came to practice. They arranged the team formation more neatly. When two people fought at close range, they advanced as the main attackers and created space for the shooters in the back. They fought very organized, causing Kanata's team to lose some morale. However, Kanata didn't mind and thought that once the three girls saw each other as a team, the answer to victory would appear. That afternoon, Kanata rewarded Riko because she was the only one who met the target for the day. He massaged her shoulders and said he had seen one good thing in her: she cared a lot about the other two and always made the right decisions. If the other two also recognized this good side of her, it would be even better. On the way home, Kanata accidentally met Yuri. They both had something to talk about, so they walked together. Chloe saw them walking together and decided to follow them. They arrived at a cafe. Kanata ordered black coffee, and Yuri followed by ordering the same, but then she added a lot of milk and sugar, which disappointed Kanata. At the next table, the three girls didn't know what was going on between Kanata and Yuri. Maybe they were on a date. Sora was surprised to hear this and decided to eavesdrop. Kanata then asked Yuri why she called him there, but she wanted Kanata to speak first. Kanata read an article that said Yuri only liked people stronger than her. Kanata thought he knew who the person stronger than Yuri was that she liked. Yuri thought Kanata would mention her name, but Kanata mentioned Chloe's name. He thought Yuri was the type who liked girls, so he didn't want to judge her. However, Yuri got angry and stood up, saying Kanata shouldn't continue being a mentor for that failing group because it would waste Kanata's natural talent. But Kanata said he and Chloe used to be failures like his current group, and look at them now. He believed his group had talent and would help develop it. Yuri then left and paid for the 2 cups of coffee because she had invited him. So, Kanata paid for the table next to him. Of course, he realized the 3 girls had followed them since the school gate. On the squad leader's side, a series of attacks on male students continued, and the common factor among them was that they all used sharp weapons. The first victim was from Class E, the second from Class D, and recently from Class C, so the next victim might be from Class B. While they were talking, a male student was being chased by a hitman. He had no way out and turned to fight, but the hitman was too strong. He wanted to become stronger to be equal to Yuri, and it turned out he was that teacher. The next morning, Lecty woke up early to run. She met Kanata, who was also running, and they sat and talked. She knew that Kanata deliberately changed their positions to get them used to it, but the reality was she didn't fit as the main attacker, and she didn't fit the support position. Kanata felt good that she realized this, which meant she was close to figuring out what Kanata had planned. After that, Kanata asked Lecty to work as a waitress in a cafe. Everyone there thanked Kanata because he had helped their business strategy. He wanted Lecty to focus because lunchtime was a busy time. After that, she started taking orders, and looking around, she saw everyone working very professionally. Now she didn't need to move much because others were taking over her tasks. When she went out to serve customers, she tripped, and a waiter suggested Lecty pay more attention to her surroundings. When she went out again, she started observing and taking orders as soon as someone raised their hand. Kanata, who was sitting nearby, saw better results. During practice, Sora was still very weak as the main attacker, making Riko frustrated and unwilling to support them. Lecty realized that the support position was quite lonely, so Kanata came and asked if she had found anything while in that position. She now realized that in the support position, there was room to see the whole situation and give advice and reminders to those in front. Previously, she was only focused on the main attacker and only looked ahead, so now she had a chance to see more broadly. After that, she told Sora how to act as the main attacker, which was to break through the enemy's formation. She also realized how Riko felt every time she stood behind, so Riko humbled herself and helped Sora mess up the enemies that got through. Lecty was behind to finish the rest. This was what Kanata wanted, and he stated that Lecty had passed. The next day, Kanata met Chloe again and saw that she looked sleep-deprived lately. Chloe said she had to patrol for the hitman case and hadn't slept at all. They still didn't know his identity, but they only knew he targeted students using close-range weapons. Chloe asked Kanata to keep this secret to avoid causing chaos. She then came and felt she still didn't understand what Kanata was trying to teach. While Riko and Lecty had made progress and learned something, she felt left behind. She wanted to be stronger, so Kanata understood and asked her to gather everyone in the classroom. Chloe realized Kanata seemed happy like when he used to mentor Yuri. He then took the 3 girls to an old warehouse and told them they would stay there until the big event. He wanted them to clean this place. Seja and Lecty started cleaning, but Riko didn't like dirty places, so she left. At that moment, Kanata met Yuri again. She wanted to sit and talk for a while. She wanted to know why Yuri switched to using a sword when she was very good at using a spear. In the past, Kanata suggested she switch to a spear because she often retreated, which was a fatal weakness for a sword user but different for a spear user. However, Kanata only suggested, the rest was Yuri's right to choose. Yuri was very impressed, so Kanata hardly needed to teach her anything, just a few small things and an unyielding spirit. Yuri didn't know why Kanata kept helping her, so Kanata said she was very important to him. Suddenly, the hitman appeared. Yuri drew her sword and advanced to fight. She realized this was someone who didn't have much fighting experience, but he was very fast, making Yuri make the mistake of retreating. The hitman launched an attack that threw Yuri. He waited for Yuri to get up, then ran around her to attack suddenly, but Yuri quickly read his movements and dropped his sword. However, the hitman suddenly launched continuous wind attacks, making it impossible for Yuri to block them all, and she got hurt. At that moment, Kanata came in to save Yuri. The hitman was angry because Kanata kept getting in his way. Kanata was quick enough to block all the wind attacks and fast enough to keep up with him. Kanata attacked the hitman's hand and said that someone who only had a little speed but acted arrogant wouldn't win. The hitman then decided to protect himself but also took the time to hit Yuri. The teacher then left angrily, and a monster eye suddenly called him to receive power from it. The three girls in Kanata's team had finished cleaning the room. He ran away for a while to avoid Yuri, then borrowed clothes from the three of them and asked the reason they were together. The three agreed and also wanted to ask Kanata. Yuri remembered that previously Kanata often asked her to do strange things like this. Riko knew for sure that Yuri and Kanata had a certain relationship. Kanata then returned and brought a keychain to give to Yuri as a good luck charm. He wanted Yuri to see the keychain when she faced problems and remember his teachings. Finally, he asked why Kanata asked them to be together, but Kanata forbade her from interrupting. Seeing Kanata happy with the three girls, Yuri remembered when they all still lived together. Before leaving, Yuri said she wouldn't go easy on them even if they were grateful for her help today if they met in the final. After that, Yuri left, and the three girls felt a little worried about Yuri's words, but Riko suggested they eat first before thinking about anything else. Lekti, who could cook a few dishes, then went to the kitchen to cook noodles. Riko teased Sora because she was raised in a cafe but couldn't cook anything. However, they all found that Lekti cooked quite well, and Riko used her special sauce which made the noodles even more delicious. Sora felt she was the most useless among them. The next day, the three girls woke up late and had to rush to school. During practice, Sora remained the weakest on the team and got injured while cooking. When Riko talked about strategy, Sora didn't understand anything. Soon after, the official tournament began. The first day was the qualifying round, and tomorrow it was Kanata's team's turn. Kanata wanted the three girls to go home and practice again. That night, the hot water in their room suddenly stopped, so Riko took them to check and found that the steam machine was broken. Sora felt familiar with the machine and was confident she could fix it. She used her magic to get the machine working again. But Riko told her that Sora's method was too hasty and the machine would only work for a short time before breaking down even more. Since there wasn't enough hot water for individual baths, the three girls bathed together. During the bath, Sora felt she was far behind the others and left. She felt guilty for just getting angry at her two friends but felt she was the weakest. The next day before the match, Kanata gave Sora some advice, suggesting that she sometimes relax and observe her surroundings to see things she missed. As the match was about to begin, Kanata asked Sora to go down to the field. The three met again with the team that had beaten them before. The opposing team felt this would be an easy win and had already planned their celebration. The opposing team leader was confident this was the end for Kanata, but Chloe believed that Kanata always saved the best strategy for last. Sora immediately advanced with a cannon attack, but the attack was dodged by the opponent. The opposing team then counterattacked, forcing Sora to retreat. Lekti and Riko advanced and tried to pin the opponents in one place. The opposing team believed that if they defeated Sora, her team would collapse. However, Lekti and Riko did not let them get close. Sora remembered Kanata's advice and observed again. She saw how Lekti and Riko often trusted each other. Kanata had deliberately made them live together so they could understand each other. Sora realized that what she needed to do was to trust and rely on her friends. Lekti and Riko managed to hold the three opponents in one place. Sora charged up her energy for her strongest cannon attack and fired it at the opposing team, successfully taking them down. Kanata acknowledged that Sora had now become part of a solid team, and they managed to end their losing streak to reach the top. Yuri noticed the progress made by Kanata's team and believed their meeting in the finals was no mere talk. An evil teacher tried to increase his power using demon eyes. After the first victory, Kanata's team won 2 more matches and entered the quarterfinals. The opposing team leader considered this just luck. However, they advanced to the semifinals, angering the opposing leader because they were close to losing their bet. Kanata's team was increasingly excited because they only needed to win 1 or 2 more matches to reach the top. After winning the semi-final match, The story about Kanata's team being disbanded if they lost was announced to the whole school. This way, one team couldn't turn things around if they lost. Lecty was very happy because she managed to change according to her wishes thanks to Kanata. Riko remembered the first time she met Kanata, even though she called him a pervert then. However, Kanata had done his best so far. Sora realized that she often rushed and got angry for no reason, but thanks to Kanata, she was getting closer to her dream of becoming a wizard like her mother. That night, the three girls trained for tomorrow's match. Kanata thought they would be worried, but it turned out they were all getting stronger. The next morning, due to the final game, Chloe and Leoid conducted tight patrols to ensure nothing suspicious disturbed the match. When Kanata's team went out to the field, they saw more spectators than usual. However, most of the audience supported Yuri, not Kanata's team, who were suspected of cheating. When Yuri's team came out, the cheers for them were much louder, but at least Kanata's team was supported by their first opponents, which provided a bit of comfort. The match began. Yuri suggested Kanata retreat before making himself look foolish, but Kanata wanted Yuri to be ready to join her team. Yuri's team quickly formed a formation, forcing Sora and her team to act. Sora flew and attacked the enemy's backline while Lecty and the enemy swordswoman advanced to the front lines to fight. Realizing that Lecty's abilities weren't too bad, the enemy mid-player shot arrows to support her. Lecty had to fend off the arrows, giving the enemy swordswoman a chance to attack, but Riko was ready to support from behind. The opposing team leader was confident this match would end quickly. Chloe outside felt bored because she couldn't watch the final game, but Leoid asked her to check the back area because the security team hadn't reported anything. Sora lured the enemy to chase her, taking the opportunity to set the traps prepared by Riko. The opposing team was forced to avoid the traps, giving Sora a chance to attack with her sword. However, the enemy girl was also a skilled swordswoman and could read Sora's moves. Yuri believed she had understood all of Kanata's strategies and was ready to end the match. Sora kept being chased, while Yuri believed Kanata's team was only running around to make her team careless. But Sora flew high and aimed her weapon at Yuri's team. Everyone thought she would use a cannon attack, so they tried to get close to prevent her from shooting. However, Sora didn't use the cannon but attacked with her sword to repel the enemies. Kanata revealed that Yuri had been trapped. Sora's previous strategy was only to make Yuri's team wary of the cannon attack. Now, with the opposing team leader losing his cool, their formation fell apart. Yuri couldn't seize the opportunity from the hunter to become the hunted. Now, Sora was truly the hunter and was making a wild beast angry. Sora then continued to intimidate her opponents and then jumped once more to set the three members of Yuri's team in a line. The enemies thought she was using a trick like before, so they didn't get close. But now, Sora used the Kitsch cannon and shot straight, taking down Yuri's entire team. Everyone was surprised when Kanata's team officially made a comeback and secured the top position. But at that moment, the enemy attacked the broadcast room. He triggered the alarm to drive all the students out of the arena and then destroyed the broadcast room to find Yuri. He realized that his power was very similar to the one Kanata had previously. Yuri now realized that this researcher was the same person as the murderer they had faced before. Kanata just learned this when he was about to attack Yuri, but Kanata stopped him and kicked him away. He pulled Yuri to run, but the enemy immediately cut their path, forcing Kanata to let Yuri escape while he faced the enemy. Kanata was the main target of this enemy, but the enemy threw a row of chairs at Kanata, forcing him to dodge. However, a metal rod got stuck in his leg. The enemy then confronted Yuri again. Yuri drew her sword to attack, but the enemy easily broke her sword. Sora then fired a shot to force the enemy to retreat, but that only made the enemy angrier. Leoid and Chloe then came to help, giving the enemy a chance to surrender, but the enemy turned into a monster. Kanata recognized this form. The enemy created a whirlwind and trapped him and Yuri inside it. When he was about to catch Yuri, he realized that Kanata and the three girls were still there. The enemy then launched an attack that took down the three girls. Kanata was furious because someone dared to touch his students. He used his power to heal the wound in his leg and cut off the enemy's arm. However, the enemy could also recover. The enemy knew that Kanata had the same power as him, but Kanata only felt pity because the enemy had succumbed to the temptation of power. The enemy believed that if humans found out Kanata gained his powers from a monster, it would cause a huge problem. Kanata then tried to attack the enemy with a knife, but the enemy grew two arms from its body to hold Kanata back. Lecty came to free Kanata, while two other girls shot at the enemy to help Yuri and force the monster to retreat. However, the enemy quickly recovered and turned its arms into snake swords, attacking Yuri. Kanata protected Yuri but was stabbed. Sora and the others had to attack the enemy to stop it from killing Kanata. The enemy decided to teach them a lesson. The two girls kept attacking, and Lecty headbutted the enemy, but the enemy was too strong and her knife broke. Kanata asked them to keep pretending to be weak to catch the enemy off guard. The enemy then asked where Yuri was and attacked them, but they dodged, allowing Yuri to strike with a spear. The enemy underestimated Yuri's attack, but the spear was specially designed to defeat chimeras like him. The enemy fell, and the whirlwind disappeared. Yuri wanted the enemy to realize his mistake and offered forgiveness. However, the enemy attacked Kanata as expected. Yuri threw her spear, causing the enemy to fall in front of Kanata. Kanata told the enemy that he had been controlled from the beginning. The monster's armor broke, but the researcher inside was still alive and unconscious. Kanata recovered after the battle. Yuri felt grateful to Kanata for saving her life and defeating the monster. However, Kanata did not take credit. The squad leader finally arrived, but Kanata asked for permission to rest, and the three girls followed him. Chloe noticed that Kanata remained the same, doing everything by himself without ever accepting praise. Leoid also did not understand what was on Kanata's mind. The incident was reported as a regular explosion, and Kanata's team did not get a promotion because their points were used to clear previous public misconduct records. Their weapons were also damaged in the explosion. All they had was a victory trophy, but everyone was disappointed for not getting anything after winning. Kanata praised them for their best effort and announced they would get a new member, Yuri. Yuri disliked being called a defeated general but could not deny her loss. Kanata then asked what Yuri had in the box, and it turned out to be a cake to celebrate their victory. Kanata wanted to open the cake, but Yuri wanted to do it later in private. However, Kanata opened it anyway and found a love message inside. Kanata teased Yuri by asking if the message was for Riko, Sora, or Lecty, making Yuri very embarrassed and running away. The researcher then woke up in the hospital and regretted his actions. Kanata's team grew stronger under his leadership. That's the end of the story of this anime. Thank you.